tonight's big stories. New Senate President Cheese Escudero meets with House Speaker Martin Romualdez officially for the first time as the two work out ways to push forward the Marcos administration's priority measures.
Dozens were killed, including 3 of the OFWs, after a fire broke out in Kuwait at a building housing foreign workers. 2 other Filipinos are in critical condition.
And in just a bit, we will be speaking with Senator J.V. Ejercito, who sponsored the newly signed Negros Island Region Law.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Kicking off tonight with the first official leadership meeting between the House and the Senate since Cheese Escudero took over. This afternoon, Senate President Escudero met with House Speaker Martin Romualdez at the Aguado residence in Malacanang. There, the two leaders discussed steps to quote-unquote enhance cooperation between the two chambers, especially as they work to pass the Marcos administration's legislative priorities. The speaker noted that this was a preliminary discussion ahead of their full LEDAC. LEDAC stands for Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, and that meeting's happening on June 25. Aside from Romualdez and Escudero, the meeting was also attended by some members of the Senate and House Majority, as well as officials from the Executive Department.
In a statement, Romualdez said the meeting also symbolizes a renewed and reinvigorated partnership between the House of Representatives and the Senate under the leadership of Senate President Escudero. He also said, together, we are committed to working hand in hand to pass key legislation that will significantly benefit the Filipino people. House Majority Leader Manix Dalipe also spoke about this leadership meeting, and here is what he said.
It gives us the opportunity to align our priorities, being able to talk closely on what of the legislative measures we should prioritize and pass right away. So this is an opportunity for us, for both houses, to deepen our working relationship with one another. So it's a good thing for us.
And so now, the big question is, which priority measures were discussed at this meeting? Well, according to Speaker Romualdez, they tackled 20 priority measures targeted for approval in the LEDAC meeting set for later this month. He said the key focus of this meeting was amendments to the rice tarification law, identified as a top priority. But as you might recall, the two chambers remain staunchly divided over economic charter change, or CHA-CHA. In an ambush interview, Senate President Escudero was asked about this.
Sir, kasama ba yung CHA-CHA sa napag-usapan? O ano yung...
Hindi.
Hindi.
Ang sabi ko sa kanila is sa tagal ko sa Kongreso, bihira naman yung nabibito dapat na bill. Kasi ba't namin ipapasa kung alam naman namin hindi namin alam na ipapasa. Bibito. Para hindi sayang yung bakot. Diba? Tapos minsan may mga bicam na binabalik. Para, diba, the coordination must increase, not only between the Senate and the House, but also with the Executive.
Is that an invitation to talk about CHA-CHA with the President?
You know, he has been clear, Senate President Escudero has been clear that he's opposed to CHA-CHA.
Yes,
to
pero
charter
honestly,
change.
ladies, iniisip ko lang, wow, medyo maayos yung outfit niya today.
Uy!
Okay, but on top of that,
Iba'y napansin,
back to
ano?
zero. Napansin
Ay,
ko lang
nako.
din yun. Siyempre later on, pag-usapan natin yung isa pang mas viral na Cheese Escudero video. But for now, dun sa meeting na yun sa Aguado House sa Malacanang, ang sabi nga ni Senate President Cheese Escudero that both chambers of Congress should mend ties muna bago mag-resume ang any kind of CHA-CHA talk. Now, if we recall, the House already passed resolution of both houses, or RBH 7, back in March. 289 voted yes, only 7 voted no, and 2 abstained. As we know, RBH 7 removes the 40% foreign ownership limit for public utilities, education, and advertising firms.
That was back in March. April, May, June, almost 3 months now.
There were actually coup rumors with Senate President Zubiri.
Correct.
And remember that he had said that before he stepped down, that Senator Cheese Escudero has had a record of being anti-CHA-CHA. Sinabi rin niya that he has been staunchly defending the independence of the Senate. nagpaparinig, nagpapasaring
Back
tungkol.
then, back in March, the lower house was so confident that the Senate was going to pass it in May.
Yes, bago sila mag-adjourn, bago mag-recess.
Bago mag-recess. It's already June. And you know what? In one of the press cons that he held, former Senate President Mig Zubiri said, he was asked about it, and he said, and I quote, "Wala na, goodbye Chacha," right? And he also pointed out that Senator Sonny Angara has resigned from the committee chairmanship. Senator Sonny Angara used to lead the Senate's hearings on RBH
He was
6, and he
handpicked.
is correct.
Yeah.
And now he's resigned
Kasi
from
iba nga
that.
yung version ng Senate tsaka ng House, and they have yet to reconcile.
Well,
how to
RBH
move
6 and
forward.
7 were supposed to compromise. We're supposed to be the middle ground,
Yeah,
right?
kasi ang
But-
RBH nga, by very virtue of its name, resolution of both houses. So, nakakapagtaka rin bakit may 6 and may 7.
Bakit
Dapat
iba?
they're working,
Oo.
right?
Well, there was
Malabo.
that phrase that they inserted, right? Unless otherwise provided by law,
law.
which was meant to bridge the discrepancies in the two versions. But again, with the whole change in leadership in Senate, it's up in the air again. And we're also just pointing out once more that Senate President Escudero has never been a fan of Chacha.
That's right. So I guess we'll just find out more pag nagyari na yung LEDAC. I believe that's scheduled for June 25. We'll find out kung ano yung mga other priority measures. But speaking of rice tarification, which is one of those priority measures, the Senate Committee on Agriculture already held a hearing on that today and questioned the basis for the 15% rice tariff that will run until 2028. Representatives from the Department of Agriculture and NEDA were grilled on whether they held enough consultations before making the decision. Senator Amy Marcos also asked why the tariff cut needs to last for 5 years, which would badly affect farmers.
Kasama po ba kayo dun sa nag-recommend ng 4.5 years to 2028 bilang emergency na ibagsak ang taripa hanggang 15%?
As far as I know, Madam Chair, we're not the one.
So hindi na konsulta ng NEDA ang DA?
We were consulted, but as to who recommended, Madam Chair.
Anong recommendation ninyo noon nung kinonsulta po kayo?
During
Kailan
the
po ba
discussion
kayo
at the
nakonsulta?
CTRM, Madam Chair,
So what's your record?
it was to bring it back to 50%.
Baliktad. Bring it back to 50. Ang nangyari kabaliktaran. Yung 50 naging 15.
The rice tariff, ma'am, is part of the comprehensive tariff program. So yung comprehensive tariff program po ay every 5 years po ginagawa po yon ng CTRM. So part ng program po na yan ay i-review yung lahat ng mga tariff structure natin. So kasama po dun po yung rice. So yung pong decision nung NEDA board,
Discussions are actually with the goal of battling inflation. And the proposal is to reduce the tariffs from 35% to 15%. Medyo malaki-laki yun, ano?
Yun nga. Actually, tataka rin ako, ano nga ba yung math, diba? Anong formula yung in-apply nila para makalculate na from 35% magiging 15% na lang until 2020.
Baka para maabot yung 20 a kilo.
29,
Pero ito,
29 pesos a
29.
kilo is
Oo.
the target. But remember, 29 pesos a kilo is only for the poor or those who fall under the government's 4-piece program. That's not
It's not for
a
everybody.
figure for everyone. That's where the confusion comes in because a lot of chatter on social media, for instance, they always say, oh, nasa na yung 29 pesos a kilo rice. But again, NEDA has been very clear that's only meant for the poor segments of society.
And even then, malayo pa rin sa 20 pesos na target, di ba, per kilo ni President Marcos nung kampanya. But ito nga, no, sabi nga ni NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, mataas talaga ang global rice prices. As we know, ang mga ibang rice exporters nagkakaroon din ng sari-sariling ban dahil sa nagdaan na El Nino. And Secretary Balisacan says, itong decision daw ay they did not arrive at this lightly. In fact, they did consult with around 800 or even more stakeholders, which began as early as March of last year pa.
On the other side of it, of course, the Federation of Free Farmers, or FFF, is completely against the tariff cut. They've said that the country stands to lose 33 billion pesos, plus 10 billion pesos in lost tariff revenues for the government. 33 billion pesos, that figure is just estimating the losses to farmers.
Well, again, this is because rice has been the biggest contributor to inflation in the past several months. But if you do reduce tariffs, you also reduce the fund that is meant to help the farmers. And yung competition yan pagdating sa price, local supply, imported rice. That will probably be a cost to the losses.
One thing's for sure, I do not envy the job of our
Mahirap
socioeconomic
balansehin.
classes. Oo, sobrang hirap balansehin and napakadami talagang involved, di ba? Kasama
This
na rin.
is precisely the Secretary Balisacan's expertise, actually. For a long time, he was, he's a UP professor and he's also taught social development economics, right?
As
And
well as
this is his specialty. So, for me, though you may not know exactly how that number was calculated, I'm sure they looked at it thoroughly, right? They assessed it carefully, and in economics, it's always a trade-off. There's always a trade-off. And in this case, there was enough on one side to say, all right, then let's take it down to 15% for the meantime.
Well,
But
that
the Senate is also right to question the methods, right? So.
Well, I'm excited to see how it will impact rice prices moving forward. But I guess for that to happen, we just have to wait and see kung gagana.
Yun nga, mukhang mapapabilis yan because that's one of the priority measures of the House of Representatives. And speaking of that, well, he's had the job for just a little over 3 weeks, but Senate President Cheese Escudero has figured in another viral social media issue. That's after First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos grabbed his wine glass and drank from it during the Von d'Honneur for Independence Day held in Malacanang last Wednesday. Shortly before the traditional toast, President Bongbong Marcos and the First Lady mingled with the guests. While Marcos spoke to Speaker Romualdez, the First Lady was caught snatching Escudero's wine glass and gulping from it. Escudero then appeared to laugh off the incident as a waiter offered the First Lady her own glass of wine. In a text message to reporters, Escudero addressed the matter by saying, "I consider waiting on a lady, first or otherwise, to be gentlemanly." Escudero went to say that while others might say that he is old-fashioned or that he was made to look under, for him, being a gentleman and showing goodwill to others will never go out of style. First Lady Liza Marcos, on the other hand, has yet to comment on the incident.
Actually, ang cute nga eh. It's kind of like, when I saw the video, parang nakaka-humanize. It's something my friends would do when they walk into a party and they're stressed. They grab someone's glass and just
Ang
down
tingin ko
it.
parang napagod siya dun sa event eh. Parang ito
for
nakakita ko
sure.
ng wine.
Exactly,
Kaya nga
di ba?
yan.
Pasip naman.
But it also is very telling of the relationship
Relationship.
of Senator Escudero and the First Lady.
I
If
think
you're
that's,
comfy
that's
enough
the,
to
that's
share
the crux
glass.
of the matter. Yes, she's human. Yes, she must have been tired by this very long day. Remember, they started the day at Rizal Park. It was a long day of Independence Day festivities. But the crux of the matter seems to be that there's a question of under ba si Senate President Cheese kay First Lady, right? Because you said it was quite telling. And you're right, it is something you would do to a very close friend.
Right.
Remember though, they're meant to be independent. There's meant to be a boundary. Right?
Well, the first
It's
thing I
like-
thought about was, what happens now to Chacha. Right? Because, I mean, you're right. I mean, how can the Senate President keep the Senate independent now from the executive branch?
Well, feeling ko naman, okay, it is possible to still, hello, we saw Huang Xilian, Ambassador of
Sa
China to
bagay.
the Philippines,
O, sige na
also
nga.
being closely. I think it's possible to kind of put a fine line between professionalism
But remember
and
as
friendship.
well, Senate President Zubiri on his way out said he didn't follow orders. That's why he was removed from the post.
But,
right?
you
So
know,
we leave you to connect the
Speculate.
dots.
Well, for sure,
yourself.
the First Lady is quite powerful, powerful enough to do something like that.
At the end of the day, it's just a glass of, I think,
I
it's
didn't
champagne,
see-
and
yeah.
it was the
Alam mo
Von
naman
d'Honneur.
tayo, overanalyze
exactly.
That's all we can do down here, overanalyze things.
Exactly. We should stop overanalyzing. It could just be,
Pagod
she's
lang si
tired.
First
Oh,
Lady.
exactly.
Balik tayo dun.
Okay, still on the Senate. Construction of the new Senate building in Taguig City will carry on for now. That's according to Senate Committee on Accounts Chair Alan Peter Cayetano. Cayetano said phases 1 and 2 of the project have been bidded out, and so construction will push through while they review phase 3, for which an additional 10 billion pesos have been allocated. Construction for phase 3, which has yet to undergo bidding, is the one that's been suspended pending review. Phase 1 covers the core and shell of the building, while phase 2 covers the interior space.
Ito po'y na-bid at ito po'y ongoing. Pwede naman po tuloy yung construction dyan na nire-review namin. Wala pong conflict yon. So we're just looking at the documentation, we're looking at yung mga why and what, pero tuloy-tuloy po yan para walang delay.
In his letter to the Senate President, Cayetano wrote down several concerns that held up the project. This includes deviations in the terms of reference, problems with procurement, and a lack of coordination with the DPWH.
Again, di ba, we are more than willing to listen to everyone. Nagre-review lang po tayo. The goal is to have the best functional, iconic Senate building that will be a symbol, di ba, of our democratic process, of the will of the Filipino people, no? At the best quality sa tamang cost.
Natutuwa lang ako, no? Para siyang microcosm ng mga problema ng ating bansa, itong mga issues sa new Senate building. Diba? Pero okay, let's get...
Yeah, so in the letter, which is pretty long, Cayetano
pages.
also recommended that three things. One, the Senate President conduct an inquiry, which he's doing already via Cayetano. Compel DPWH to create a high-level liaison team for this project. And number three, engage a third-party construction management firm to help with the process of clarifying and validating the project both technically and financially.
Well, Senator Nancy Binay did point out, though, that Senate President Escudero was already a senator back in 2019 as part of the 17th Congress, and therefore he should have been perfectly aware of all the project costs. Even then, maaalala natin, no, na ilang beses na nag-field trip doon sa new Senate building yung mga senators. They were all in attendance also.
Medyo highly publicized
ocular.
itong
Yeah, very.
Senate building. Pero ang napansin ko doon, parang ngayon ko lang ulit narinig si Senator Alan
Peter
Cayetano.
Cayetano.
No?
Yes.
That's
I mean,
right.
maybe it's also because of the change in leadership in the Senate, right?
That's right. He was given the new role.
Balasahan.
Senate
Actually, wala rin
Committee
talaga siyang choice
on
kasi siya yung
Accounts.
chairman ng Committee on Accounts and hiningan siya talaga ng comprehensive review. So for me, it was like, you're right, we haven't heard from him much, but he was just doing his job, and the Senate President asked him for a report and he gave it pretty quickly too.
And again, this is not to side with anyone, but you know, Senator Binay is correct. This will only cause delays, and delays means more money, right? So, okay, I understand you need to do an inquiry.
What do you do?
but-
What do you do with a building that's
Well,
already
I think
there,
what-
right?
And this is actually one of the things that foreign investors complain about, right? In
Pabago-bagong
terms,
isip.
correct, in terms of setting up shop in the Philippines. The inconsistency in regulation sometimes can be down to people's whims.
And
right?
policies change every
Policies
city.
change, rules change, and this is something
But
that
again,
they
to
should also be
clarify lang.
careful what message we're
To
sending out.
clarify lang, Rich, they will not naman stop the project. They will continue kasi hindi pa naman nabibid out yung third phase, which
That's
is...
true.
Yeah,
So just
Which is the
reviewing it.
finishing.
Oo.
The most expensive.
It's
of
always the
three
most
phases.
expensive naman talaga in any construction, diba? So, pero 10 billion. So, tignan natin where that goes. For now, we were gonna pause for a quick break, but right after that, 3 Filipinos died in a fire that broke out in a building in Kuwait. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. At least 3 Filipinos died in a fire that broke out in a building in Kuwait. 2 OFWs are currently in critical condition. Marian Enriquez with the details.
Dark and thick smoke emanated from this burning building in Mangaf City, Kuwait, early Wednesday morning. Occupants of the building are migrant workers, most of whom are Indian nationals. 11 of the building's residents are Filipinos. A netizen said they witnessed how huge flames engulfed the lower floors of the building. According to the Interior Ministry of Kuwait, 49 people perished in the blaze. 3 of the dead are Filipinos, according to the Migrant Workers Department. 2 suffered injuries and are currently in critical condition. The rest are confirmed to be safe. The DMW says these OFWs work in a construction company.
Currently reaching out to the family. Ang ating labor attaché at OWA and the embassy are now at the forensic, with the forensic authorities.
The DMW is now working on repatriating the remains of the Filipino victims. Many perished in the fire because it happened while the workers were asleep. Some survivors said it started on the lower floors of the building. The workers on the higher floors were not able to escape immediately. Some even jumped out of the building just to escape the thick smoke. The Deputy Prime Minister of Kuwait accused the building owner for allegedly overcrowding the building with migrant workers just to earn more. Authorities said they will coordinate with other real estate owners in the area to avoid such incidents. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. The Department of Migrant Workers continues to monitor the situation of the affected OFWs. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
All right, back to lawmaking. President Bongbong Marcos has signed the measure seeking to create the Negros Island Region, or NIR. Under this new law, the Negros Island region will be composed of Negros Occidental, Bacolod City, Negros Oriental, and Siquijor. The law's passage brings the total number of regions in the Philippines to 18. The law also aims to consolidate and coordinate efforts, services, and resources for purposes commonly beneficial to Negrenses. In his speech, Marcos said that the formation of the Negros region will improve access to government services and address uneven growth.
This union is long overdue and makes very practical sense, especially in the Negros Island, where people are located on one island but are governed under separate administrative regions. So for decades now, Negrenses have endured the rigors of sea travel, unnecessary expenses, bureaucratic red tape, inefficiency that this arrangement has brought. Equally glaring is the uneven growth and the disparity of funding between the two provinces, which share many of the same natural resources and industries, such as sugar, tourism, renewable energy.
All right, let's hash out this law further with Senator J.V. Ejercito, who's the sponsor of the Negros Island Region Bill. Good evening, Senator. Thanks for joining us again tonight.
Yes, good evening, Regina, Gretchen, and Shawn. Nice to be back here again.
Wait lang, bago tayo magsimula doon sa seryoso, tanong muna natin reaction ni Senator doon sa pag-inom ni First Lady, doon sa wine glass ni Senator Cheese.
Normal lang ba yun, Sen? Siyempre, party naman.
Ano basa niyo doon?
Well, I think it's just normal among friends. Again, if we had a long day, I guess it was a long day. It started early in the morning, then ended with the Van de Honor in the afternoon. So sometimes if I see a friend like if you just want drink, take a drink, you just take a sip. Good friends do that, so I don't think it's should be a big deal.
Sabi ko sa inyo
It's really
so
I'm all
Good
for
friends.
it.
Good friends do that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Exactly. It's really just social media, isn't it? It's social media likes to make
It's all of us wanting to make an issue.
likes to make a mountain out of a molehill. Senator, Negros Island Region Bill. You're the sponsor for this, and I know in the past you've said that this should spark economic expansion in the region, also allow for timely government services. What's the big dream here? What's the vision?
Well, the rationale for the creation of the Negros Island region is it will usher a unified and coordinated island development planning. It will, hopefully, it will accelerate the economic transformation of Negros and Siquijor. And second, it is intended that to bring in improve the efficiency in the delivery of government services, because Negrenses and Siquijadnons will no longer have to cross the seas, to reach the respective government regional offices for transactions and services. Because just to give an example, if you are in Bacolod or Negros Occidental, the regional offices are located in Iloilo. So you have to cross by ferry to get to the regional offices in Iloilo City. If you are in the other side, in Negros Oriental, like Dumaguete, for example, you have to cross, take Aroro going to Cebu, south of Cebu in Santander, and then take a 2 to 3 hour trip going to Cebu City proper. So hopefully with the creation of the region, it will make services more accessible and more efficient, no? And not only that, for peace and order, there will be one police regional office, military as well, and as well as tourism development. It will now be coordinated this time. So it's difficult because if it's bad weather, you cannot, people from Negros, Occidental Oriental cannot anymore go and transact business or seek services in the regional office. So that's the rationale behind the creation of the Negros Island region.
Weird nga naman kasi yung isa nasa Region 6, yung dalawa naman nasa Region 7. But there were apparently some opposition to this, Senator JV, no? Particularly residents of Siquijor and Dumaguete. Ang sabi nila, hindi daw sila na-consult. Would you know ano ba yung mga pinaka-biggest complaints nila against the formation of this new region, if any?
Well, that is not true because we've had 3 committee hearings and the stakeholders were invited. Of course, the provincial officials were invited as well. And Shawn, Regina, and Gretchen, the counterpart measure were filed by all of the representatives. So we were just recipients of the transmittal from the House of the Negros Island region. Although we had the similar measure that was filed by former Senate President Mig Zubiri, but it's all of their representatives, no, from both Negros Occidental and Oriental filed similar measures creating the Negros Island regions, and probably it's because already of the inconvenience brought about by having to cross, no, to cross Iloilo, to cross Cebu province, going to Cebu City. So, and also there will be in this law, there will be no regional center. No, regional office were distributed evenly in the provinces. No, that the Negros Island region will composing the Negros Island region.
Senator, just taking a look at the map, it seems commonsensical, I mean, to do this.
Yeah.
Because you're uniting one island, making everything more efficient, easier. But why do you think it took so long? Because I'm reading now, it seems the proposal to unite the 2 Negroses was there since the 1980s. And actually, President Aquino already signed EO number 183 in 2015 na ni-revoke ni President Duterte noong panahon niya with EO 38, citing the high cost in doing this, 19 billion pesos given by Benjamin Jokno. I mean, what is with all of, you know, what can't we not see? Why did it take so long?
I think
to get
also,
this passed?
added to that, no, ano ba yung cost? Like, for example, now, do we really have to spend 19 billion plus interest to today's currency? May ganun po bang cost implications ang pag-unite ng mga isla into a single region?
Well, definitely there will be cost, no, because we are creating a new region, but it will not be that, because we will take some from the budget of the current regional offices. But just to refresh, because this has been a while, according to DBM estimates, of course, of setting up one regional office, which will cost about 42 million annually, no? And the estimated amount of 1.2 billion annually should be set aside for Negros Island region for the next 3 years, no? So hindi naman po ito one shot 1.2 billion. So it will be it's a multi-year, so in about 3 to 4 years. So cost of setting up a regional office will be 41.9 million each, no? But it will be, and I think the cost of this will be covered, no, by the efficiency, and we are very positive. Even the provincial officials are positive that this will stimulate economic growth, and this will far exceed, no, the earnings, the improvement of the economy will far exceed the cost of setting up the regional offices. And if it will bring the services easier, closer to the people, make the operation of regional offices more efficient, then why not? No? That is how what government should be. It should be bringing the services closer to the people and make it more efficient.
Will new seats be created? I mean, politically, what will happen to the politics on the ground?
It will be status quo, Gretchen, no? Because we do not want to create new districts anymore or any district offices, but it will just be dispersed, no? Accordingly, regional offices will be set up also according to, for example, in Negros Occidental, because it is more agriculture, the agriculture and land-related clusters like Department of Agriculture, DNR, Department of Agrarian Reform, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Peace and Order will be Negros Occidental. And the tourism, the Human Development cluster like TESDA, Department of Education, Department of Health, Commission on Higher Education, I think tourism, will be in Negros Oriental. So it will be there's an even distribution of regional offices. So wala pong labangan dito, and both were approved by both provincial governments. So both governors were present also when we were discussing the distribution of the regional offices.
And I guess following what you just said, Senator, wala ring impact kung matuloy na yung Mandanas ruling?
It's the Mandanas ruling has been a challenge really, of implementation. But because there are certain programs that I myself being the chair of the Committee on Local Government, being a former chief executive, of course, the Mandanas ruling will give bigger share of the budget to the local governments, which of course I support. But there are programs like, for example, Department of Education, Department of Health, that are better left with the national government. No? So there's still a study being done right now as to what amendments shall be introduced to make the Mandanas Garcia ruling more effective this time, because it has been a challenge. I have to be honest with you, the implementation, because the actual implementation, like for the programs that I mentioned on education and health and others, there are certain local governments that have no capability, of course, of implementing or maintaining, for example, hospitals. So this will be probably the next that we will be tackling on how we will be able to make the Mandanas Garcia ruling more effective.
Senator, do we have a timeline for this in building those departments across the areas that you mentioned? Ano po ang natin sa pag-roll out po nitong Negros Island Region Law?
Well, we set a timeline of about 3 years for everything to be completed. That's why we allotted 1.2 billion for next 3 years for the setting up of these regional offices. No, so hopefully, we're hoping that again this will make it more efficient. Again, the planning, everything will be more coordinated, and again, what is more important is the delivery of the services. So we're hoping that after 3 years, once we completed the setting up of the regional offices in the Negros Island region and Siquijor, then hopefully we're hoping that this will usher in a new era of development in the Negros Island.
Right, so you explained really well, Senator, how the delivery of services will be more efficient. On the other hand, sa mga negosyante, for the key sectors in those islands that are involved, meron din bang kumbaga perks for them itong unification and creation of a new Negros Island region?
I think, Shawn, it will make ease of doing business, no? Because people who would want to, for example, want to invest in sugar mills or in agriculture in Negros Occidental, do not have to go in to Iloilo, no? To have to cross by a ferry to go to Iloilo for permits, for everything that they need. So it will now be all in Negros. For those, for example, those who are interested to invest in education or in health services, tourism, they don't have to go cross the Roro going to Santander in Cebu and take that 2 to 3 hour trip going to Cebu City.
Right,
So
right.
I think if it's easier,
Yeah.
in more convenient, it will definitely
Right.
encourage more businesses to
Right.
grow in both provinces.
Right. Senator, just very quickly, since we already have you on the show, if you'll permit me to ask about two other things. One is the new Senate building. What is your opinion on the new Senate President Escudero asking for a halt on the construction pending review?
Well, that's the prerogative of the new Senate leadership, no? But I would think that everything is on paper. We everybody knows that we in the Senate are very sensitive on these matters, no? So if I don't think there will be irregularity, and I think it will be explained well, no, by the former Committee on Accounts head, because Senator Nancy Binay is the one who's handling this. And I guess she's in the better position to answer all of this. But I would say that, just to give you an example, the rationale behind the building of the Senate, the iconic Senate building, is we are just renting in the GSIS building, and I think the annual rental is more than 300 to 400 million pesos every year. So if it's amortized, no, for example, yung 10 or 20 billion, hindi naman ho yan one shot, no? That will be spread out, no? I from what I know is that the 10 billion was allotted and another 10 billion is on standby, no? So let us just wait for the inquiry to finish, but I am confident that everything is in order. We are very, we in the Senate, everybody knows that we are very sensitive about these matters.
Yeah. And Chacha? Chances for Chacha under new leadership? I mean, I know we were talking about it earlier. Senate President Escudero is also not a fan of Chacha. But they did have a first official meeting today. Do you think there might be some room for compromise here in the upper house?
Well, to tell you frankly, once we go back to session after the SONA, it will after a few weeks, few months, it will already be budget season already. So all the priority measures, ito po yung the last session should have been the chance really if you have measures that you want passed, no? But in fairness to the past leadership, Senator Angara, who was chair of the subcommittee on the resolution of both houses, really conducted hearings already, and we, as not promised, but as agreed upon, the Senate will go on with the hearings, and the House will just adopt the measure. But unfortunately, the House leadership were really in a hurry because, as you mentioned earlier, why the need for two RBH, no, resolution of both houses. Then and probably that's one of the reasons for the change in leadership. We know for a fact that external forces were behind, of course, in the change in the Senate leadership, and it started, of course, during the People's Initiative way back in January, and just continued on.
Although some other people have insisted that Chacha has nothing to do with the change in leadership, but we will leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your insights once again, Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Thank you.
Another quick break for now, but up next, PAGCOR CEO Al Tenco appeals for POGOs, saying the legitimate ones contribute billions to government revenues. The details right after the break. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Okay, this is another big story hogging all the headlines recently. The outrage over POGO. So amid all that, PAGCOR CEO Al Tenco appeals for calm, saying the 46 licensed POGOs here should be left in peace given their contribution to government revenues. Francis Orsho with that story.
Philippine offshore gaming operators or POGOs are getting a lot of heat over links to organized crime. But for PAGCOR, the agency tasked to regulate the industry, legitimate POGO companies should be given a chance. PAGCOR Chairman Altenco said the agency has done a major cleanup since the Marcos Jr. administration took office. From nearly 300 POGOs, the number has been cut down to 46 active and licensed offshore gaming firms.
Sana po bigyan naman natin ng pagkakataon yung 46 na license seats natin ngayon dahil sila po nag-ahanap buhay ng maayos at magulo. And the government is deriving close to about 20 to 22 billion pesos in terms of license fees po and payments to the BIR.
So where did the rest go? PAGCOR says most are no longer in their previous declared offices. However, they don't have the power to go after these unregulated operators.
PAGCOR does not have any police powers, no? So we have been coordinating with our police authorities and other departments of the government through a task force. Kami po ngayon ay nagpapalitan ng mga informasyon nang sa ganon, ito pong mga illegal operators na ito ay masugpon at mahuli na.
Tenco said the properties where illegal POGO firms used to operate are being forfeited by the government. For Senator Win Gatchalian, PAGCOR is having a hard time operating with its conflicting mandate.
In PAGCOR, talagang nila ito, responsibilidad nila ito. Importante na nagre-regulate sila. Ang nangyari kasi ngayon, yung PAGCOR, dual personality, may operation at may regulation. Dahil dito sa conflict of interest, hindi sila nagre-regulate ng mabuti. At nakita nga natin doon sa case ng Banban na mayroong 24/7 na PAGCOR personnel doon pero nakalusot pa rin sa kanila yung operation sa Banban. Kung ikaw ay aktibong regulator, dapat hindi makakalusot to sa'yo.
Tenco said he agrees.
In the amendment that we are proposing, we want PAGCOR to be purely a regulatory company.
Currently, there are calls for an outright ban on POGO amid its perceived negative social impact and possible threat to national security. But Tenco says a blanket ban won't guarantee an end to the illegal operations happening underground.
Pagka in-outlaw natin lahat yan, tuloy din ang illegal operations. Hindi din po tayo makakakolekta kahit piso.
Mobile journalist Francis Orsio, we are One News.
The Justice Department says former Negros Oriental Congressman Arnie Teves is now under house arrest in Timor-Leste. Teves will be under 24-hour security with only family members permitted to visit him. The DOJ added that the government will maintain close oversight of the situation to ensure that all procedures are both valid and appropriate. Recall that Teves was released by the court on Monday after his habeas corpus petition was granted. However, the first extradition hearing was scheduled on Tuesday, so he was taken into custody by another court to ensure his attendance at the hearing.
Yun pong sinabi ng kataas-taasang hukuman ng Timor-Leste na invalid yung extradition request, pwede naman po namin ipresenta yon bilang isa sa mga depensa namin dito sa extradition court.
Shared earlier today by Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, Teves is shown at the hearing. Well, some good news for this Thursday night. Pregnant and breastfeeding mothers under the 4-piece program will be getting additional aid. That's after President Marcos approved the proposal giving cash grants to pregnant and lactating women to ensure their child's needs for the first 1,000 days. The Social Welfare Department clarifies that only pregnant and nursing mothers who are already part of the 4-piece program are qualified for this additional cash grant. Legislative action is also needed to fully implement the program.
Sa kasalukuyan, ninanais ng DSWD na maumpisahan na rin itong pamamahagi ng karagdagang tulong. we have to understand na meron din pong proseso na isasagawa for this. Unang-una, tayo naman po ay nabigyan ng direktiba ng ating pong mahal na Pangulo na makipag-ugnayan with the NEDA and the DBM nang sa gayon, ma-determine natin yung target number of beneficiaries and the cash grant na matatanggap po nila and the total funding requirements. And of course, this would require some legislative actions.
And before we go, just a little bit more of good news via our big picture tonight. That is Lord Maynard Diera of the Filipino restaurant Kuya Lord in Los Angeles, winning the prestigious 2024 James Beard Award for Best Chef in the California category. Liera is the only Filipino to bag a medal in the Restaurant and Chefs Awards, while 2 other Filipinos were semi-finalists in their respective categories. The James Beard Foundation Award is regarded as one of the most prestigious restaurant awards in America. Liera's restaurant started as a pop-up during the pandemic before expanding into what is now a 21-seater restaurant in Melrose Hill. In his Instagram post, Liera said his James Beard Award is, quote, a reminder of the importance of hard work, perseverance, and the power of a supportive community, both Filipinos and non-Filipinos.
James Beard is like the Oscars of the food world.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it's incredibly prestigious. It's incredibly prestigious. So it does feel like Filipino food is having a bit of a moment. There's a renaissance moment.
Yeah.
It's having a bit of a moment.
Actually, it's
And
not
you
even a
can
renaissance.
see-
It's having its first kind of like
Exactly.
big splash.
Yeah, it's
Actually, nung mga
blossoming,
20
coming
I
into
think
its own.
I was in New York 2019 before the pandemic. And apparently they say that Filipino food is on the rise, like because of ube, because of calamansi.
And
yung
actually,
mga
my cousin,
There's a
when he
lot
was
of restaurants in New York that are
my cousin
being
who used to be a
cited.
waiter while he was in college in New York, he was in a restaurant called Jeepney.
I was gonna say,
Oh, yeah, I know
Jeepney
that.
started it.
Lagi na
Jeepney was one of
Tagal na
the...
nito.
Sa New York yun?
Yes, correct.
Oh.
So these restaurants in New York City, you know, started gaining ground, and then they started getting noticed by the mainstream publications like the New York Times.
Yes.
So recently you saw articles on tocino, for instance, on the New York Times, or adobo getting featured.
Which one of my
That's the
favorite
start
thing
of the
is-
mainstreaming
Yeah.
of Filipino food.
Americans, they love lumpia so much.
Kaya nga eh.
Di ba? Pansin mo rin?
Pero kanina yung parang niluluto ni, ni Lord parang hotdog eh.
Baka longganisa.
No.
Hotdog na maraming keso.
Hot silog.
No, he does the silog meals now. And also the usuals.
Alam mo, punta lang tayo doon, Kuya Lord, sa...
The
Sa
name is
Melrose
so
Hills,
funny,
LA.
Kuya Lord.
Kuya Lord.
The name is quite funny.
But it also is his name, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Kuya
So,
Lord.
very
Meron din tayo
Filipino.
dito yun sa TV5.
Si Kuya Lord.
I
On that very corny
time to
note.
send Gretchen home.
Alright, so congratulations. Sana matikman natin yung food ni Chef.
Let's all go to LA.
I know, magkano na ba yung exchange rate? Aray.
Malaki.
But no. Talk of that because we're ending the show on a good note. That's it for the big story
We are
tonight.
one news all sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.